Welcome back, everybody. And that's exactly what we're doing today. So we're going to be comparing two very common, so we're comparing two very commonly used English tenses, the present simple and the present continuous. Yeah, let's get going. So remember that, so the present continuous, always think about it as something that is in progress. So something that is happening at the moment. We use this, the continuous, for things happening at or around the time of speaking. The action is not complete. But the present simple, we use this present simple for things in general or things that happen repeatedly. So think about it as facts, habits, routines. So it doesn't matter if you do it once, or, so once a year or a million times. If you're talking about it as a habit or a routine, so I watch television once a year, because you're talking about a routine, so something that happens in a typical year, it happens once. So, and, whereas, so it doesn't matter how often it happens, but it's facts, habits, routines. That's where we use the present simple. Present continuous, things that are happening around now, directly now, or around the time of speaking, and things that are in progress, not complete. So if we compare some of these examples, okay, the water is boiling, be careful, because it is boiling now. If you touch it, it will burn your hand. You will, well, actually, you'll scald your hand. You'll scald your hand, so because that's burned with hot water. But water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, that is the present simple. So that's a fact. It's generally true. So unless obviously you take a kettle up to Mount Everest or something, so then it might not boil at exactly 100 degrees. But it's a fact. It's generally true. Let's compare two more sentences. Listen to those people. What language are they speaking? So remember, the people are talking now, and so the language, and the question is about what language they are speaking now. So it's quite possible they might switch to another language. They could be some friends who might switch to another language in a few minutes. So what language are they speaking now? But the present simple example, excuse me, do you speak English? Because you're asking about a fact, so something that is true. Next two examples. Let's go out. It isn't raining now. It might rain in an hour. It might rain tomorrow or in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whenever, but it isn't. It might rain in 10 minutes, but it isn't raining now. But then the present simple, it doesn't rain very much in summer, okay? Because that's just generally the case, okay? It's generally true. Something that happens, so it rains a lot in the winter, but it doesn't rain a lot in the summer, or it doesn't rain very much in the summer. Now, two more examples. I'm busy. What are you doing? So what are you doing right now? Okay. What do you usually do at weekends? That one is a question about habits and routines. Okay.
And guys, please notice that here we have the same words, the same word do, but the first one is an auxiliary verb and the second one is meaning, meaning verb.
Absolutely.
So please do not confuse them.
Exactly, and you do need both. That is not a mistake. So we do say these verbs, more than, but we do use these the verb do twice as different parts of speech or with different grammatical functions. So this is very common. So because obviously verb, in terms of what its meaning is, and as a main verb, do is very, very common. And obviously as an auxiliary, it's extremely common as well. So, so you will see that regularly. But even if you ask the question, what are you doing and what do you do? We can tell, as in from the context, what the question is about. So what are you doing is asking, well, what are you doing right now? So I'm drinking a cup of coffee. I'm listening to music. I'm going for a walk, whatever, you know. But what do you do is generally a question about what do you study, what do you work at, what's your job, that sort of thing. What, you know, it's general. So, you know, whereas in languages that don't have this distinction, you would have to say something like, what do you do professionally? Or what do you do right now? You know, you would have to make that distinction with other words. In English, you can do it just through the tense because there is this distinction. And in other languages that share this distinction, you can do it as well, like Spanish, for example. So we'll carry on. Next one. I'm getting hungry. Let's go and eat. So this is right now. Let's find a restaurant. Let's get some food. But then the next one, I always get hungry in the afternoon. Okay. So I always get hungry in the afternoon. That's just generally what happens to me. Kate wants to work in Italy, so she's learning Italian. Well, she's not going to learn it forever. She will stop. She's good enough, or if she just finds it too difficult and gives up. So as in, you know, so that's why it's present continuous. Next one. Most people learn to swim when they are children. So we're just talking about a fact that is generally true. The population of the world is increasing very fast. Because that is what is happening now. It's not talking about what might happen in 20 years' time. It's talking about now. But every day the population of the world increases by about 200,000 people. That's a fact that's generally true. And another way to think about these two tenses is you think of the continuous to discuss temporary situations. So things that continue for a short time. Okay, so I'm living with some friends until I find a place of my own. You're working hard today. And yes, I have a lot to do. But we use the simple for permanent situations, so things that continue for a long time. So my parents live in London. They have lived there all their lives. Joe isn't lazy. He works hard most of the time. So these are permanent situations or ones that continue for a long time. Yeah, so this one with be is quite interesting. So I always do versus I'm always doing. So I always do is you're describing a habit or a routine. So you know, as in there's no judgment about whether that's too much or too little. So I always go to work by car. We wouldn't say I'm always going. But I'm always doing something means I do it too often or more often than normal at the moment. Okay, so I've lost my keys again. I'm always losing them. Now I do it too often. That's basically a comment on, you know, as in the frequency. So I'm always losing them. I lose them too often or more often than normal. So this is a specific use of the present continuous. It's a bit confusing.
And I suppose it's more negative, right?
Yeah, it's usually negative. It's usually negative. You know, it's usually negative. Yeah. So as in because you're passing judgment on something happening too often or more often than normal. So it tends to be negative because we don't tend to sort of talk very excessively about things that are happening that are positive at the moment. You know, so that's why.
Guys, there are a lot of details. And I've been learning English since I was 6. And when you think that this is too much, it doesn't worth it or something, I think, to be honest, English is the most important subject at school. And it is so useful because it's number 1 language of the internet. No matter what's your profession, you will need the English language. Obviously, our generation, we love traveling, and it helps you to travel. But for traveling, obviously, you don't need like really high level of English, but still, for example, if you go to travel to English-speaking countries, obviously, English, you will need a higher level of English, not just A2. Barely B1. So be patient, and in the end you will be rewarded. Yeah? And there are exercises you can practice yourself. Your answers you can check in the end of this book. And we'll see you in the next in the next episode, it will be present continuous and present simple part 2.
Exactly.
And as usual, please share these videos with everyone who studies English. I could do these videos myself, but no, natives, obviously they know their language better, and James is a very experienced teacher and he's extremely interested in languages himself. In my opinion, he would be a great linguist. So we're very lucky that James helps us with improving our English. Okay, see you. Bye, guys.
See you. Bye-bye.